DJ Humphries, for me, I would like to see if he's healthy and how he looks. Does he look like, against a really good Denver pass rush that gave the Chiefs a lot of trouble, does he look like he can hold up left tackle in pass pro in their normal setup? Because if he can be average there, you can shift Joe Tooney inside for the playoffs, get back to an all-pro level talent there.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network. It's brought to you by Batchelder Family Farms. You can now order Batchelder's fresh farm-raised products online in just a few clicks at www.batchelderfamilyfarms.com. And you can also visit their farm store for the freshest cuts and other locally sourced products Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. 20810 South Prospect Avenue in Belton, Missouri. I am here as always with the hungriest member of KC Sports Network and also the hungriest person you'll hear on 5 Things to Watch here, Matthew Lane. Matthew, hi.
Hello. We gotta hurry up and record this. I do need to go eat dinner. It's kind of late. That's all right. I need to go eat some dinner. So let's do this. Have to snack on some jerky to get me through this.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know if you can stop talking long enough to eat any of that jerky. But anyways, you are going to hear from a variety of voices here on KC Sports Network. Matt Hamilton, 1/3 of Matter Days on the KC Laboratory. We'll be talking to you later. You're going to hear Beef of the Week with just Tucker D. Franklin this time around. You're going to get Benny's picks, and obviously at the end, we're going to be closing with only weird games, but we kick things off here in 5 Things to Watch. And obviously kind of a weird game to be evaluating because the Chiefs are going to be without a lot of their starters. The list of players that are doubtful for coaches' decisions is very long to read, and Trent McDuffie's one of those players. But I think one of the most unsettled positions on this roster is still the cornerback position. It's been trending in the right direction, I would say, with Najee Johnson and Joshua Williams. By all indications, according to Sam McDowell, Steven Nelson will not be one of the standard elevations that this team uses in Week 18, which means we are not going to be seeing Steven Nelson in this game against the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
Yes, there's been some good news with Jalen Watson, and hopefully you're going to see his return at some point here. But it looks like you might get some Joshua Williams and some Najee Johnson getting some reps against some bigger receivers there for the Denver Broncos. And I mean, if you're looking for a position, I think that you want to see continue to ascend, continue to get better, and continue to get more consistent, I think it's the cornerback room.
Yeah, it is. And maybe that is kind of the rationale here is, the Chiefs did sign like Steven Nelson, and I think a lot of people were hoping that he maybe worked himself into the lineup at some point in time, and this seemed like a pretty good spot to elevate him, let him get his feet wet before the playoffs get going. But if you look at it from the other side, the Chiefs just might have signed him as an insurance policy, and they'd rather rely on the guys that have been here all year, that have been here for multiple seasons with this same defensive coordinator. They've been going through it a lot longer, and so they are going to give Joshua Williams, Najee Johnson, Christian Roland Wallace, they're going to give those guys these reps because they clearly still need them. Like, they're still improving. They're also kind of developing some of their skills, getting used to playing at the NFL consistently at the NFL level. So they need those reps just as much as anybody else. And it seems like the decision that they're going with is like, hey, we have these guys that we know are going to have to play a little bit in the playoffs, or that we anticipate having to play. Let's get them as many reps as possible. And so, yeah, I think that we are going to see a lot of Joshua Williams, a lot of Najee Johnson. I think this is a really good game for Christian Roland Wallace because he is typically, he's been playing off and on throughout the year. These last few weeks, his snap count has, seen an uptick, and he's been playing out of the slot quite a bit, but you don't ever know how much he's getting, what is his role, because Trent McDuffie's bouncing around all the time. They also use their safeties in the slot. So this game, like, they might be turning over the entire like nickel or slot coverage reps to him. And like, that's going to be a huge test for a guy that might need to fill in there come playoff time. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good way to go about this final game of the year against a passing attack that has some weapons, but not the greatest weapons.
Right. Cortland Sutton needs 82 yards to achieve $2 million in incentives. I would expect him to be getting, I know, getting an opportunity to do that. So I think, there's, the Broncos are probably serving a couple masters there. Yeah, they want to try to get Cortland Sutton that incentive. I mean, Sean Payton showed the propensity to do that in the past. But this is a playoff game for Denver. This is a playoff game for Denver, and I know it's against a lesser opponent when you look at the players that the Chiefs are leaving, in sweatpants or coats, I guess, since it's going to be cold in Denver. But there's going to be a level of intensity that at least Najee Johnson hasn't seen, Christian Wallace hasn't seen, Jaden Hicks hasn't seen, and I think it's going to be good for the Chiefs and good for this young group of secondary players and an experienced group of secondary players to get to see that game speed, see that level of intensity and focus, because that's what's going to be required of them in a couple weeks. And it's good that they're going to have time to get some reps. I don't know how many reps that they're going to plan on getting. I mean, some of these guys that we talked about are going to have to get a lot. I'd imagine Christian Wallace is playing a lot of snaps this game, and probably Najee as well. Maybe pull the reins off on Josh Williams a little bit just to make sure he doesn't get hurt. But whether or not Jalen Watson comes back, this team is going to need those guys to make some plays at some point during the postseason. And I think getting them some run against an intense football team looking to try to make sure that they secure a spot in the playoffs. It's going to be a good challenge for them. And they're probably, they're the group that needs it the most of any position on the roster.
Oh, absolutely. That's why that's why it's a good test, because there's obviously NFL players on the other side, but they are guys like Cortland Sutton can make people pay. Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, they have had some success finding some deep passes down the latter half of the years. Like the Broncos don't have a stellar receiving group, but they have guys that are good enough that present enough of a challenge that if you come out of this game with a good performance, you built up some confidence, you got some good experience that you can continue this trend of play into the playoffs. And that is where you hope you kind of can make, like, not a turnaround, but like continue the ascent that both Johnson and Roland Wallace and even Joshua Williams have shown down the stretch here. So I do think it's a big game. It's a big turning point for them to find somebody that can be consistent across from Trent McDuffie in case Jalen Watson can't come back. It seems like we're still a little bit up in the air. They are at least giving him every opportunity to play himself or practice himself back onto the field at some time during this playoff run, but they want to be prepared if not. So yeah, this is a big game, I think, for all those guys. I am curious. You had kind of mentioned maybe Joshua Williams get a little bit of time off towards the end of the game or something, just in case they don't want to get hurt. Do we think that he is clearly seen as the number 2 corner across from Trent McDuffie? Like, do we really think that he is the guy that they would pull? Because I feel like they're just going to play them all out there, because I don't know if they know who they want to see the most reps from playoff time.
I just meant to, that in the sense of, like, he's probably been the guy he is the guy that's had the most playoff experience of all those guys. So he's seen that and he's had that. He made that really nice play on the ball against the Steelers, so he's peaking at the right time.
He has played the most reps out of those guys down the stretch here too. Him and Najee Johnson kind of rotated, but Josh Williams has been playing the majority of the snaps comparatively.
And I just think that, they maybe pull the reins up on him a little bit and let some of these guys that haven't had, that playoff intensity. I mean, Joshua Williams played a lot of snaps in the AFC Championship against the Bengals and made a play in that game. I do think, one thing, kind of going back to Denver's receiving core, like, I think they present some challenges specifically for these guys too, because, like Najee Johnson will have some opportunity to play against some guys with some size. So like that'll be something that he can kind of, he can get some opportunities against. And then you look at some of the slot receivers that had some success against the Chiefs. Some guys from the slot that had some success against the Chiefs the last go round. That could be a good test for Christian Roland Wallace or Shamari Connor, even if he's going to wind up getting some playing time in there too. So I think that is, that's there's specific types of players that I think that these secondary players are going to benefit from. And so, like, I think this is a really good opportunity for a lot of them to just go out there and play against some stylistic players that could give them some trouble in the playoffs. Let's go ahead and hear from our guy, Matt Hamilton, here on 5 Things to Watch.
Thanks, guys. And the one thing I'm watching for in this game is Carson Wentz filling in for Patrick Mahomes in this game. And, I know this game doesn't have any meaning for the Chiefs. They're setting everybody, but I think, it does have some meaning in the sense that you have a chance to get to 16 wins, something only the 16-0 Patriots have done with this extended season. Getting the chance to 16 wins, I think, is something pretty cool to play for these guys that are getting opportunities they normally wouldn't have or didn't have during the regular season. And I think especially for Carson Wentz with the stage that he's at in his career, this is a big one for him to show what he can do still. And I do think there are going to be opportunities with the depth that this Chiefs team has. I think they can win this game. And I think it's kind of, people are looking at it like a foregone conclusion after Andy Reid made that announcement that the Broncos are just going to roll over them here and get into the playoffs. But you can't sit everybody. There are good quality players that are going to be out there on that field. And I think Carson Wentz, with a year sitting behind Mahomes in this system, I'm really intrigued to see what he can do, because we have seen good things out of him in the past. And as I said, I think it's a unique opportunity to really make some history here for this team, and also put some tape out there on what he can do right now, whether it's, remaining the backup of the Chiefs going forward, or maybe even getting a starting job somewhere else. So really interested to see what he's able to do, what the depth at receiver looks like, who's out there, who he's throwing the ball to. I think whoever it is, we've seen him in various situations kind of, make the best of what he has around him, be it in Philly or in Indy, in a season that was, marked by some really bad moments, but he did have 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions that year. So I think this is a really cool opportunity. And again, I think it's a really cool opportunity for this Chiefs team in general to knock a division rival out of the playoffs and enter the history books with a historic season on their way, setting up this run in the playoffs at a three-peat. And I'm also interested to see, just with the Mahomes factor and all of this, the 23 or 24 day layoff going forward. It's something that is unprecedented for a quarterback because of the weird situation with the Christmas Day game and now the bye week. If there's anybody who I think can handle the layoff from live action that long, it is Patrick Mahomes. And I think it's coming at a great time too. Obviously, he's looked great out there the last 2 weeks, but he is still dealing with that ankle a little bit. It's just an ideal situation to give him this time off to rest. And it's awesome that they have a quarterback like Carson Wentz they can put out there and still give him a chance to win this game. So that's what I'm looking for. I'll toss it back to you guys for more.
That was our guy, Matt Hamilton. He is on Wednesdays with Maddie and I on the laboratory. It is Matter Days. Great job as always, Hamilton, talk about Carson Wentz. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network. Continuing on, hearing from a variety of voices here on KC Sports Network. And it's time for Beef of the Week, presented by Batchelder Family Farms. Normally, it's the guys from that football show. Today, it's just Tucker D. Franklin, because Verderam had beef with Tucker. Let's hear from Tucker.
It's Beef of the Week here on 5 Things, presented by our friends at Batchelder Family Farms. Look, they got the best beef around. If you are looking for the best beef around, go to batchelderfamilyfarms.com. You go over to their store. They've got pasture-raised beef, grass-fed bison. They even got pork, free-range eggs. They've got beef bundles. They've got quarters, halves, wholes, whatever you want. They even got swag as well. Go over there, batchelderfamilyfarms.com/store. You can get and buy their products online, where they do offer free delivery as well, if that's what you're into, if you're in the KC area. Also get it shipped to you as well. You can get their high-quality beefs, whether it's beef, bison, pork, eggs, whatever it is, whatever you want. Batchelder Friendly Farms, they have you covered. And look, folks, we know this game does not matter for the Kansas City Chiefs. That has been clear since Christmas, which it seems like it's been a really long time since the Kansas City Chiefs have taken the field. It's going to be even longer until you see someone of importance take the field for the Kansas City Chiefs. This game clearly doesn't matter. Week 18, they got the number 1 seed locked up, and you can tell it doesn't matter If you look at the injury report, Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton, Kareem Hunt, George Karlaftis, Travis Kelce, Justin Reed, and Drew Tranquil all listed as doubtful for Sunday's game against the Broncos. Pacheco, Jawan Taylor, McCole Hardman, and Jalen Watson all out for the game. Look, and while this game might not matter for the Chiefs, it might matter for a team that the Chiefs have had a lot of beef with historically, in recent history, a lot of beef with the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, they need the Chiefs to win this football game. The Broncos, the Dolphins, and the Bengals are all fighting for that very last postseason spot in the AFC. But it's not just this game that the Chiefs, that the Bengals need. They need the Dolphins to lose, obviously. The Bengals need to win themselves, which has been a hard enough task for them as is this season. As you look at their record, they're just scratching and clawing for that last playoff spot. They have to beat these Steelers. The Broncos have to lose to the Chiefs without all of those people that I mentioned before. And the Dolphins have to lose to the Jets for the Bengals to even sniff the last seed in the AFC playoffs. Look, it's a playoff game for the Denver Broncos. They've got to win, and they're in. If they win, they're in. Easy as that. It's very simple for the Denver Broncos, as the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be likely without all of their stars that I mentioned. And this could just add to the rivalry with the Chiefs and the Bengals. Look, in years past, we saw the Fitz magic happen with the Chiefs and the Dolphins, giving the Chiefs the 2 seed. And at that time, the bye to help them go on and win the Super Bowl. So there's a lot of Chiefs fans that are grateful for that Dolphins team of beating the New England Patriots in the last week of the season so they could have that 2 seed and that bye. The Dolphins are kind of in the same spot where they need the Chiefs to win on Sunday, and the Bengals also need the Chiefs to win on Sunday as well. Both of those teams do need some help when it comes to it, but I think that this might just be another wrinkle in the rivalry for the Chiefs and the Bengals. I've already seen on Twitter, on social media, Bengals fans are already calling for Patrick Mahomes, please save us. Obviously, it looks like Patrick Mahomes is not going to play in this game, so they're going to have to rely on Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, can he be a hero for the Cincinnati Bengals? We'll have to find out on Sunday. Obviously, Matt Hamilton already told you a little bit about Carson Wentz, told you about the cornerback room as well already here on 5 Things. Lots of different variables to watch from a depth perspective for the Kansas City Chiefs, but these teams need the Chiefs to win this football game. Can they still get it done? That's what it's going to come down to, as the Broncos playing for their season's life on the line. And look, this game does have some implications. I think it'll be fun to watch, and it'll be fun to kind of see Bengals fans melt down if the Chiefs do lose this one. Now, let me know in the comment section what you guys think. If you kind of want the Chiefs to lose this game so it kind of costs the Bengals, I think that would be kind of funny. I think that would be funny in this situation. If the Chiefs do lose, it knocks the Bengals out of the playoffs. Just another way for the Kansas City Chiefs to stick it once again to a team that hasn't beat them in 2 calendar years. We feel pretty good about that. That's going to do it. That's our beef of the week here on 5 Things. We didn't know Matt Verram today. Gave him the day off. Don't listen to what Ken said. We don't have beef. Matt and I are fine. Gave him the day off. It's all right. He'll be back next week, or the next time that we do have a beef of the week, and the next time the Chiefs play a meaningful game. And the next time the Chiefs play a meaningful game, you should have some Batch Elder Family Farms beef right there in front of you. Go visit them, Batch Elder Family Farms. Kent, send it back to you.
That's Tucker D. Franklin with the beef of the week. We're continuing this thing on with Benny's picks with Benny Heisler.
All right, thanks so much. What is good, everybody? Ben Heisler back for the Week 18 edition of 5 Things Underdog Plays. Broncos hosting Kansas City in a game that I think it's debatable whether or not you feel like it means something for the Chiefs. Maybe you're on the side that's like, you know what? It'd be great to just level the donkeys with all of the backups and just put them out of their misery for this year, even with the rookie quarterback playing well and a shot at making the postseason. Maybe you're of the opposite belief that if Denver gets in, that means Cincinnati is not involved in the postseason. I personally am of the belief that you want to beat the Broncos because I think Cincinnati gives a better chance and opportunity to knock out Buffalo, and that's who I consider the Chiefs' biggest threat this year. So wherever side you're on in this debate, I think it makes it a little bit more fun, even with the Chiefs playing their backups this week. And with that being said,
Sites like Underdog, they have not yet, at least as we're recording this video, they have not yet released plays for the Kansas City side, but fear not, we have plays for you on the Denver side to make sure that you get your juices going for this game. And if you haven't played on Underdog yet, make sure you guys do so. January is still providing all sorts of great opportunities. If you use that promo code KCSN, you can use that code, score up to $1,000 in bonus cash on your first deposit. Plus, you get a Week 18 free pick, which includes Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons to go higher than 0.5 total yards. Use that promo code KCSN. Get the free pick. Add it to your plays this week for Chiefs and Broncos, and have yourself a good time to kick off January. We also have been doing really well since December, gone 10-2-0 here on our five things played since Week 14. So hopefully that the hot streak continues as we go into the new year. So let's start over with Cortland Sutton. I'd like him to go higher than 73.5 receiving yards. Think about it from the perspective of rookie quarterback, veteran receiver, Broncos having success together. And then what's one thing that a quarterback, or really anybody, a young quarterback can do to endear himself to a veteran on the team? That's hooking him up with a nice little bonus. So Sutton is 82 receiving yards away from getting an extra $2 million in bank. So the 73.5 gives us a bit of wiggle room. You know that Bo Nix is going to target him quite a bit, number one targeted receiver on the team by a wide margin. And Chiefs are also going to be going in playing a lot of their reserves in this game. I think there's some folks that might say, well, what if the Broncos just need to win? They're not going to force feed Sutton if it's a close game. And that's true. But I think if anything, maybe the Chiefs play Denver a bit more close in the first half. And then that's when, once more reserves come into the game, Denver is able to build up that lead a little bit. So looking at some of the other projections, the number for Sutton receiving yards is actually much higher in the second half, which leads me to believe that this is going to be closer than maybe most people anticipate, leading Sutton to probably have a little bit more playing time. So this is an opportunity for Bo Nix, who's been very accurate all year, to get Sutton the ball. You don't have to worry about Snowmageddon like it is in Kansas City over in Denver this week, only 20% chance of precipitation, which we'll get to in a second. But I do think Sutton is able to clear this number, so I like him to go higher than 73.5 receiving yards here in Week 18. Next one on the board I have is for Will Lutz, the Broncos kicker. I'd like him to go higher than 1.5 field goals made. And I think this is in large part to the Chiefs not playing their starters, probably holding down Denver, at least in the early portion, maybe settling for some field goals. They're not going to get too blatantly aggressive, especially in the first half, knowing that they just need to get some points. So I think Lutz is going to have some opportunities, and it is a good weather forecast for January in Denver. You also get the mile-high conditions, which is going to boost kicking a little bit. So between the solid conditions there, only 20% chance of precipitation, and very little wind, too, I might add. That's going to help Lutz quite a bit. So I like him to go higher than 1.5 field goals made in this game. Finally, the last one on the board is another higher play for Denver, and that is Marvin Mims. I like him to go higher than 0.5 first quarter receiving yards. Very specific play, but I'll tell you why. He's going off his best performance of the season in Week 17. Caught 8 targets, all 8 of them for 103 yards, also had 2 touchdowns in the game. And one other thing that I've noticed too about Mims is they kind of use him in a very similar way as the Chiefs have been using Xavier Worthy. They've used him in short yardage situations. They've used him in motion. They get the ball in his hands quickly and in space because Mims, like Worthy, has terrific speed. And if you get that type of guy in space, they have a chance to make a big play for you. So it's basically, do you think he will get the ball in short distance or really any distance at least one time in the first quarter? And given the way that he played last week, I would say absolutely. It's advantageous for Denver to get him involved right away. And so I think Sean Payton, Bo Nix, they both realize it as well. And you'll see a concerted effort to get Mims involved, knowing that he can make a big play happen at any point. And really all he needs to do in the first quarter, assuming that the Chiefs aren't going on, an 8-minute drive, taking up all sorts of time on the clock, which certainly they can do. But I do think he at least has a receiving yard in the first half. And I think they used that momentum from the previous week. So again, plays on the board this week. We have Cortland Sutton to go higher than 73.5 receiving yards. Will Lutz to go higher than 1.5 field goals made. And then Marvin Mims higher than 0.5 first quarter receiving yards. You can find all of those plays over on Underdog. make sure you guys use that promo code KCSN to get that free pick of Bijan Robinson over 0.5 total yards in their game this week, along with your first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And with that, have a great Week 18. We'll see you guys in the postseason, and I'll send it back to you.
That is Ben Heisler, does a tremendous job here with Benny's picks. We're going to close this thing out with the guys at Only Weird Games. They are talking about the offensive line. And there's a few unresolved storylines there on the offensive line. Let's hear from Only Weird Games.
Joshua Briscoe and Seth Kaiser from Only Weird Games with you here for one of the 5 things you ought to be watching out for when the Chiefs take on the Denver Broncos in Week 18, a game that doesn't matter in the traditional sense. But, Seth, it will matter for several players on this team. I think in a lot of ways, this is the most interesting preseason game the Chiefs could possibly play because you are going to see players with long-term implications going up against a team that has everything to play for. The Broncos do have a playoff spot on the line. What is that going to mean for Kingsley Suamataia or whoever it ends up being on the edges in this game? Plus, DJ Humphries looking likely to be able to play. I guess we'll see if he does play or not. Let's start on those tackles. Obviously, don't expect to see anything from Juwan Taylor, nursing an injury and all that. What are you looking to see? Who do you want to see start at left tackle? Let's start there.
I think, it makes sense to start at left tackle and to go in reverse order of the guys you talked about. DJ Humphries, for me, I would like to see if he's healthy and how he looks. Does he look like, against a really good Denver pass rush that gave the Chiefs a lot of trouble, does he look like he can hold up left tackle in pass pro in their normal setup? Because if he can be average there, you can shift Joe Thuney inside for the playoffs, get back to an all-pro level talent there. I love what Thuney's done at tackle. A lot of people view me wanting to see him shifted back inside of some kind of shot at him. No, it's because he's so great at left tackle, and he's fine. Or he's so great at left guard.
Yes.
He's so great at left guard, and he's fine at left tackle. If you can get fine at left tackle elsewhere, Donovan Smith level play, whatever, then shift him in, suddenly the Chiefs' offensive line at the most important time of the year is the strongest it's been all year by far. So that's going to be first and foremost. Another thing to look at, just on a complete kind of side note with that, is if DJ Humphries keeps practicing full practices and then they don't play him at all, that would kind of tell me, oh, okay, they plan on playing him for the playoffs, and they're just comfortable with where they're at. So that would be the first thing. In terms of Kingsley Suamataia and Ethan Driscoll, I want to see where they line them both up, what they have them do. I would love to see Suamataia get another chance with some tackle snaps in a situation where he is not under so much duress. He briefly had to come in and just play a few snaps and didn't, blow everything up. I think he got set up to fail in some ways, and I would love to see him with an opportunity. Okay, we need to build from the ground up. Brad Veach has been really clear about that. I want to see what that looks like because, like you said, it's a glorified preseason game. What does that look like? And what does Driscoll look like other than gigantic? Because, that's a great start for a tackle.
Great start.
Like, if you're going to start anywhere, having a gigantic human, that's where you want to start.
I'm with you on both of those situations on the bookends. I'll just take the interior real quick because I think this is pretty straightforward ultimately. Go ahead and leave Mike Caliendo at left guard. He's either playing there in the playoffs or he's moving back to a backup role. I don't think you have to protect him the same way you do the rest of your mainline starters. Plus, more experience for him is still a good thing. He's still a young guy that doesn't have a lot of game tape. Seems like Hunter Norzad is probably the logical guy to throw in at center after Creed Humphrey presumably goes out there, gets the start, and then steps aside. Norzad kind of presumably, again, we haven't seen him since the preseason, but presumably has an entire trio of interior options, but the Chiefs haven't carried a backup center to this point. I believe Norzad would be the guy that would have gone in for Creed if necessary. And then CJ Hansen at right guard, another low draft pick, 7th rounder for him, but they've carried him on the roster this year. Didn't think they could get him to the practice squad, so he's still on the table. And Wanya Morris, we haven't mentioned. I think for him, it's just a matter of if you need a professional offensive lineman, you could probably throw him at a few spots if needed, but I'd rather see Driscoll, and really I'd rather see Kingsley at tackle, like you said, too. The one thing I'm kind of taking from training camp and what we've heard from Andy Heck a couple times and all that is that it really, obviously they were putting Kingsley at left tackle exclusively in camp. They let Wanya move around a smidge, and then it seems like Driscoll has been pretty much just preparing to play right tackle. Yep. So I wonder and maybe a half of DJ Humphries is good enough for him to feel confident that he's ready to go. And then Kingsley gets the second half at left tackle. But Nate Taylor has suggested now in back-to-back weird games, he'd like to see Kingsley at guard, and that being able to hop over CJ Hansen would maybe make the most sense as the lowest drafted guy out of that group. But here's my tease for you, okay? I think we're going to be talking about Kingsley Suamataia at tackle in training camp next year, and not in a way where he is guaranteed to be the fourth one. So I'm not fully ready to see them just like scrap him at guard yet. There just aren't a lot of reps for tackles in this game.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same place. I don't like the idea of so quickly someone who's clearly working on figuring out the mental aspect of the game, like throwing him around at multiple positions. To me, that doesn't make sense as a way to build him from the ground up. And that's, Veach has been pretty blunt about, what things look like. Reed has been pretty blunt about what things look like for him. And I think the way you do that is let Humphries play a quarter or 2 or 3 drives and you see where you're at, and then throw Kingsley out there the rest of the game and say, let's see how you do now against a tough defense. But it gives you an opportunity to provide some building blocks, some learning opportunities.
Hey, you know what? If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that we'd be looking ahead to Tuesday's only weird games so we could talk about how Kingsley Suamataia looked in the Chiefs' regular season finale, I would have believed you, and I would have been pretty excited to know how his 17th game of the year went. Some things have gone differently, but we will be back to talk about it all on Tuesday after a game that would still feel pretty good for the Chiefs to win. Send the Broncos pack and get win 16, and then maybe even get a little bit of a peek at your offensive line situation. That's what we'll be watching for.
And that is going to do it for this episode of 5 Things presented by Batchelder Family Farms. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting KC Sports Network. Enjoy a stress-free Week 18 of football, where a lot of players that haven't got a ton of opportunities are going to get in this game. It is going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy it. Enjoy the next couple weeks. Dial in for the divisional round. Thank you all so much for listening. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.